Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Mirk, and I'm going to talk to you about zines. So if for this workshop, you're going to need a piece of paper, any kind of paper. I'm going to use printer paper, but you can use any kind of paper you want. So take a minute to go grab like a piece of lined paper, construction paper, whatever is lying around your house. Just get a piece of paper. You also need something to write or draw with, like a pen. And then it's helpful to have scissors if you have them. If you don't have them, don't worry about it, but definitely a piece of paper that you can maybe rip out of a notebook or something, and a pen. So that's what you're gonna need. And while everyone's running around taking a minute to grab that, I'm gonna talk a little bit about who I am and what a zine is. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and show you this little presentation I made about the joy of zines while you're grabbing paper. Okay. Yeah, so zines are a medium of publication, self-expression. Comes from the word magazine, so it's just a shortened form of magazine. And this is my definition for zines. They're independently made multi-page work that's published for passion, not profit. So that can mean a lot of different things. I like to make these kinds of zines that are made from one piece of paper that are folded up, and then I can distribute them in the world. So back in 2019, I did a project where I made a zine every day for a year. And as you can see, the zines are on a whole bunch of different topics. Some of them are funny, some of them are more serious. I work in most of my life as a journalist. So I see zine making as a form of journalism, of taking a story and making it really accessible and engaging by keeping it succinct and pairing it with pictures so that it reads like a short comic in paper form that can be handed out or shared online. You can put anything you want in a zine, all this kind of stuff, rants, political stories, activism, weird stuff you found on the street. This is a recipe zine that I made called Lazy Lunch Cookbook for my fellow freelancers who maybe have really bad lunches when you're working at home. I put together this cookbook of like 10 recipes that are under $10 each and only take like 20 minutes to make. So this is just something, I'm absolutely not a chef. This is just something that I wanted to make and share for my friends. So it's a really fun little zine. These are some of the other one-page zines that I've made. I work as a reporter. I often cover Guantanamo Bay. So I made this zine about the prison at Guantanamo to take that big work that I'm doing and make it bite-sized, more accessible, easy for people to read, as well as doing some projects like documenting all the trees in my neighborhood. So this is the kind of zine that I'm going to show you how to make today with that piece of paper that you just grabbed. Okay, so we're going to do a little folding lesson. So grab a piece of paper and I'm going to show you how to do it. And if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, joys, concerns, feel free to drop them in the Slack. And especially if you get lost while I'm folding, just let me know in the Slack. Okay, so you have a piece of paper. It looks like this. You're going to fold it hot dog style, meaning long side to long side. Then you're going to fold it short side to short side. And one more time, short side to short side. So it'll be about this big. I love this kind of pocket size quality. I think what's cool about starting with a blank page is that you feel really empowered to tell whatever kind of story you want. Okay, you're gonna undo all your handiwork. You're gonna unfold the whole thing. That just looks like a piece of paper that you folded up. Maybe you can hear my dog squeaking on a ball in the background. She's very excited. Okay, and then you're gonna fold it over short side to short side. One more time, like this. So you'll see one side of the paper is open, like it has a mouth, that's how I think of it, and one side is closed. So from the closed side, you're gonna take your scissors and cut between the first two panels here, just right here down the middle. If you don't have scissors, you can just rip this very carefully. But yeah, cut between the first two panels here. Sure. What you don't want to do is cut the whole piece of paper in half, because then you have two pieces of paper. Okay, yeah, like I said, if you don't have scissors, just rip really carefully right there. Then you're going to unfold the whole thing again. Fold it in half long ways. So I'll show you that one more time. You unfold it and then long side to long side again. And then if you hold the edges, you'll notice that in the middle, it makes a diamond. I call this diamond formation. So hold the edges and just push your hands toward each other, creating that diamond. Go, 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 until the middle touches. And you can flatten it out. And it becomes a little booklet. It's absolute magic. I'm gonna do that last part one more time because it's often a little confusing and people get lost. So got my whole piece of paper with my slit in the middle. I'm gonna fold it over long side to long side. And then diamond formation, push the edges in, stare through the middle, push the edges in until the middle touches, and you can fold it flat. Boop. Okay, so now you have the zine. This is a cover, 6 interior pages and a back cover. This is like a little booklet. And we're gonna make a zine together at the end of this workshop. Each person's gonna make their own. So hold on to this, start thinking about what you wanna put inside of it. In the meantime, I'm gonna show you some other zines for inspiration and help you think about like how zines are a very political method of self-expression that I feel like really empowers people to share their own stories. So share my screen again and go back to that presentation. Oh, sorry if you can hear my dog. She's very enthusiastic about this, about, you know, all of the work that we're doing here in this important moment. Or just that she needs to be fed, something like that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. And we're here. Yeah, so some of the zines I make are pretty silly. Like here's one I did about things I can't draw. What I really love about zines is that they're a super accessible medium. You don't need anything in order to make them. Even if you feel like you can't draw very well, you can make a zine about not drawing very well. It's just a great place to share what you're feeling, what you're processing, any kind of information you want to put out in the world. And because it's just a piece of printer paper, it's no big deal if you mess it up. I feel like it's a really low stakes kind of art form where I embrace imperfection rather than feeling like each one has to be really, really good. So I also sometimes draw digitally. So this is an example of a zine that I drew on the iPad program Procreate and then printed it up as a zine, which is a great way to do it if you want to use color or you don't feel super comfortable drawing on paper. Drawing digitally is great as well. This is a zine that I made sort of thinking about gender during the pandemic. I'll show you the first 3 pages. This really shows what I love about zines, which is that there's no gatekeepers involved. You don't need anyone's permission to publish. If you have a story, you can share it with the world by just drawing it up and printing it as a zine. And then it becomes a special art object. I can mail them out to people. I can hand them out to people. I can stick them in little free libraries. It's a nice way to share what I'm thinking about the world. I also sometimes make wordless zines. So the ones I've shown you previously have words and pictures. Sometimes they just have pictures in them. So I wanted to show you an example of one that I made like that. It's about the art of graffiti removal. So I went around Southeast Portland and took pictures of some cool spots where people had painted over graffiti, which I feel like makes artwork of its own. I love these scenes. So I just wanted to share that as if you're not somebody who's interested in writing or drawing, you can still make a zine about something that you document in your world. I also like to get zines out with the zine bike. This is a project that I made happen last year, where I got a grant to create this bike that I can bring around to festivals and parks and hand out zines or sell zines. And it's a communal bike. So if you ever want to borrow this to distribute your artwork or to do an event to hand out zines and you live in Portland, hit me up and you're free to borrow this bike for any kind of event that you want. Just Google zine bike Portland and it'll come up. What I think are so cool about zines is that they're an analog open source technology. by that I mean that you can make them cheaply or freely available, and they're also designed to inspire people to build on them. A zine that I make inspires someone to make a zine of their own. I'm not proprietary about it. And that really, like, the spirit of zine making and zine communities around the world, that they're made for collaboration and community rather than selling a specific product or making a huge profit. There's a real like DIY punk ethos behind zines. The zines that I make, I publish under a Creative Commons license, which means they're free to photocopy and distribute. And I do that so that if people want to use them in classes, or if teachers or educators or anybody wants to use them, they can. And if somebody likes a zine that I made, they can photocopy it, do whatever they want with it. I have a part of my site where I upload PDFs of zines where people can download them for free. And my only constraint here is that you don't use it for commercial purposes. So like, don't turn it into an ad for your shoe company or something, but you can use it for anything else you want. And what I love about giving my work away is that you never know where it winds up. When people download the how to make a zine template, which is here, I ask them, what are you going to use it for? And I've had people download this zine from all over the world and tell me that they're using it for all different purposes. I probably get 4 people downloading the zine from my site a week, and it's really cool to see the kind of things that they do with it, whether it's for workshops for kids or for making their own poetry or for their local library. People are doing all sorts of things with this, and I find a real power in giving my work away and allowing other people to build on it and do whatever they want with it, because I feel like it creates an impact that like spreads exponentially. A zine that I made can inspire someone else to teach other people to make zines, and who knows where that will grow or how many people will learn from that one zine that I made. So here's just some of the examples from my website of what people are doing with them. I wanted to talk a little bit about zine history. Here's some cool old zines I'm going to show you. Think back to a time before TV and mass market movies. If people wanted to comment on stuff they were reading, they could make a zine about it and distribute it to people. That's something that science fiction fans did back in the 1930s and onward. So these are some cool zines that were by science fiction fans, reviewing science fiction stories, publishing their own science fiction stories, and just commenting on the world of science fiction. And these are distributed by subscription, I believe. So, you could mail them around, get one from a friend. If you had a nerdy sci-fi friend, give them one. I just love these covers. And I love thinking about people being creative in this way so long ago. I also say that all zines are political because self-publishing is political. If you're adding your voice to cultural conversations and sharing something that's important to you, you're creating your own narrative. And that pushes back against the kind of representation that we see in media. If you're speaking up about what's important to you, even if it's something like just sharing what you're feeling that day, I feel like that adds more voices to the kind of representation we see in the world. And these are some cool zine archives that you can explore online, all of which show kind of the political heart of zines. This is the Queer Zine Archive project. So with all these zine archives, they take zines and scan them in. The Queer Zine Archive project takes zines that are made by queer people or on queer themes from all over the country and put them online in a database that you can search and find. This feels so special to me that I can find something that was made and distributed in New York in the 80s or by a random teenager in Nebraska in the 1990s. And then there's lots of fun, cool, surprising stuff like this zine from Somerville about Bruce Springsteen. I love it. There's also a really cool site called the POC Zine Project, making zines by people of color easy to find and distribute. So same thing where it's a database of zines that are scanned in, and you can find ones to download and share and read. So this is super important with the pandemic. It makes these zines more accessible, so you don't have to go to a physical library to find them. And then also it can share them with people around the world. So, if you're not able to get to a place where there are zines in your library and your community, you can find them at these archives. These are some zines from this group Indigenous Action in North America. Super interesting stuff to read and to share. And here's a final zine archive I'll show you, which is a science zine archive. So I think people who make any kind of science zine can submit their work to this archive. It has a pretty like diverse range of things that they host on the site. I just clicked on this one about fingerprints because I thought that looked cool. And it's a whole zine about how fingerprints work, like the science behind fingerprints, which is so fun to read. I love zines because they're in all spots in the world. So it's not just something that happens in the United States, it's something that happens around the entire world. And that really speaks to it being like an accessible form of publishing that you can share in pretty much any place. Whenever I travel, I always carry zine stickers with me to give away. And whenever I meet somebody, I ask, where can I find zines here? So this is a little map I made of places to find zines in Mexico City. This is just people telling me like, oh, there's like a woman that sits in this plaza and she sells zines, or like there's some punks that go outside this metro station and they sell zines. So I put them on this map and then try and track down as many zines as I can in a place and bring them home if I can and trade and give them the stuff that I've made. It's a great way to have like cultural exchange, as well as to learn about a place from the people who live there rather than from like the more top-down institutions. Here's some cool zines from around the world. Yeah, this is one that I picked up in Cuba, where I did just what I just mentioned, where I brought zines when I went to Cuba on a reporting trip a few years ago and just asked, do you know anybody who makes anything like this? And then came across this feminist zine maker who's making this zine called Super Vivo about feminism in Cuba. Here's some cool zines from Chile and Mexico. Both of them are feminist zines, sharing essays, writing, photos, art on feminist themes. And here's another small press in Chile called Migratorial Amistad that publishes all kinds of zines from different makers, also a feminist press. And then on the right is this cool zine maker in Spain. I just love the designs of these covers. I think they're printed on a risograph, just think they look cool. Here's a cool zine design from an artist in Brazil, where it looks like a cigarette box, and each fake cigarette is a little zine that's rolled up, and the tagline says "Smoking Kills." Really cool. This is another creative way to distribute zines, which is in these zine vending machines. So here's one in New Zealand and one in Portland, where you can go into a bar or a cafe or a venue and get a zine. I just love that form of distribution. Another form of distribution is by just making it a PDF that's available. So having a print zine, but then you make it into a PDF and make that available. So here's a zine that I really love by an artist who's on Instagram as The God of Cookery. And it's this Chinese protest recipes zine. So this is a PDF that you can download, you donate to support Black Lives Matter, and you get this cool zine. I just love the way that this bridges print and digital and makes a really beautiful print product accessible online too. So if you're looking for zines from around the world, I would check out these hashtags on Instagram. Just look up zine, zinester, Quaranzine or Quaranzine Fest for pandemic era zines. That's what I would recommend if you're looking for ones from around the world. There's really cool stuff. Here's just a random sampling from Quaranzine of zines people have been making during the pandemic. I just love to see the diversity of what people have made, and it always inspires me to see these different styles. It makes me think about like, ooh, I want to make that. I always say that zines are great for self-expression on the cheap because you don't need anything to get started besides a piece of paper and the story you want to tell. So here's a couple of zines that I really love from some different makers that you can follow and also can be inspired by. These are zines by Malika Garib, who often makes these like tiny, even smaller than we're going to make zines. And she often leaves them like in public spaces, like on the bus, or tucks them into somewhere hidden. I thought this was a really cool zine that she made of like a walk through a forest, and to like document going on that walk. I love it. Here's a zine maker named Austin Cleon, who's pretty well known, and he does a lot of collage zines and poetry zines. So this is a zine that he made from a single page of a National Geographic. And this is another zine that he made by cutting up a page of the New York Times and then blacking out the parts that he didn't want to reveal a poem within. This is what he calls blackout poetry. And then here's a zine maker I love named Faith Hale, who makes zines that are really just for fun. They're zines that are found images. So she chooses a topic such as sweaters, chickens wearing sweaters, and then makes a whole zine of chickens wearing sweaters, which who knew? Who knew there were so many chickens wearing sweaters in the world? So this is what I would call like a found photo zine. And they're just like so great. It makes me want to make a lot of found photo zines. Okay, now that you're full of inspirational ideas, we're gonna make a zine. So grab the thing you folded, and if you don't want to do it on paper, you can make a grid on an iPad and draw it that way. So it's going to be a cover, 6 interior pages, and a back cover. So if you're drawing on an iPad or digitally in some way, make a grid that's 8 equal boxes. So it'll have that kind of, feel of 8 different scenes. My big goal with this is to embrace that imperfection. This is not going to be like a highly polished product. It's something that we're just making to share thoughts with the world and to be creative and fun. If you want to, you can share your zine when you're done. I recommend these hashtags. For 2022 is the festival's hashtag, and then Zine and Zinester will get it seen by people who make zines all over the world. So this is the Zine Prompt. This is what we're going to do. We're going to spend the next about 20 minutes on this. So it's called Monuments We Need, and you're going to grab a piece of paper or pencil, grab your paper and a pen or pencil to draw with. And here's the prompt. So I'm going to get started drawing mine. Here's my prompt for each page of this scene. I'm going to tilt my screen down, so I'll draw mine at the same time you're drawing yours. And if you want to go off prompt, that's totally fine. And that's great. But here's the prompt that I'm doing. So I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes. And we can get started. Remember, if you have any questions or ideas, feel free to drop them into the Slack. And feel free to turn on some music or something to get your brain going. I'm going to mute myself so that my dog doesn't bark during this whole thing. Okay, ready, set, go. Okay, you guys have 4 minutes left to keep drawing your zines. And no pressure if you don't finish. You can keep making them forever if you want. That's just the time that we have. But I'm going to share the zine that I made with you guys. And if you have any questions for me, drop them into Slack so I can answer them before we're done. But I'll show you the zine that I made. Okay, my zine is called Monuments We Need. And it has a little award on the front that says, yes. My statue to an animal is to worms. Worms are very important. You know, they break down all the soil and basically we couldn't survive without worms. So the humble worm, I built this statue and it has a compost bin in it. And so you can feed the worms, give them a gift, an offering. The statue that I made, the public fountain that I made to a book, I dedicated it to author Octavia Butler, and on the statue it has like a pencil on the top and it says, all that you touch, you change. And then the bottom is like a little free library so people can leave books, take books. So it'll be like a little public library with a fountain on top. I love I was thinking of the pencil looking kind of like a sword or something. Very noble. My high school mascot embodying a value I agree with is the generous giants. I thought that would be fun to they have a what is it called? Like a cheer that goes 2, 4, 6, 8. Generosity is so great. The rhythm doesn't really work, but we can work that out later. Okay, here's my street sign. I'm dedicating a street to Edie Bryant, one of my favorite comedians. I think Portland should have a street named after Edie Bryant because she was in Shrill. Let's make an Edie Bryant Boulevard. And then here's an award to an everyday task that I accomplished, which is you did the dishes, finally. And it has a bottle of soap in the top of the chalice. Then my shirt to my favorite food, it just says tomato forever and has one big tomato on it. And then finally a flag I would proudly wave is the plants flag. I would plant that flag anywhere. So that's my zine. If you want to share the ones that you wind up making, you can post them on Instagram or wherever. Just use the hashtag for F.O.U.R 2022 and Zines and Zinester, and we'll see it. So Isaac, can you let me know if there's any questions? If there's no questions, I'll just say thanks for coming to this workshop. You have 1 more minute to finish your zine, which is very exciting. And I'd love to see them if you want to share them. So I hope that this time inspired you to take a minute to do something creative with your day and take a little drawing and writing break instead of answering emails. And that you feel good about something that you saw or something that you made, and we'll take this forward with you in the world. So thanks again, and good luck with all your future zine making endeavors. Bye, everybody.